This is a project by Tatiana Bilbao, which was, I believe, called social housing. And the idea is that this was kind of a housing prototype. I actually have this up for us to look at. This was a housing prototype that Tatiana Bilbao, who was my Balmer lecturer when I was in my G3 year, um, uh, she basically had this housing prototype, and the idea was you had these like different materialities and these different kind of pods that you could then interchange with each other. So you can get kind of this prefabricated housing made of these kind of like made to order pieces, but you could configure them in different ways to get these unique buildings, right? And so we're going to use her plans and sections as kind of like a precedent, right? And so you might say, like, how are we going to do that? We are going to take her plans and sections, and we are going to drop them into our Rhino files, right? So I have a bunch of plans and sections, and we are going to basically 3D model her entire thing in great detail. Um, and again, let's just follow along with the brief, right? Uh, we are going to trace our plans and sections, right? We're going to build an accurate 3D model based on these drawings. And these are going to be detailed. Walls, stairs, windows, doors, the garden, roof, and the beds, like basic furniture, right? So when I'm looking in here, I'm thinking beds, table, couch, stairs. I'm not really sure what this is. Could be a water heater, could be a sauna pod, hard to say. But I digress. Oh, you know what? It's probably a shower. It's probably a shower. But the point being, we're going to basically recreate this like base model. We're then going to apply textures to the model. So as we're looking at this, we're going to have you see there's kind of like three textures happening. There's your brick, there's your wood, which are the like the stripes, right? And then your solid kind of concrete textures, right? And so we're basically going to pick three materials, and we're going to use our various textures that we have from our project two, right? So it's like maybe I'm going to represent my concrete as this beautiful rock with the pink texture. Or maybe I'm then gonna like take the wood texture and I'm actually gonna represent it with this kind of like uh more grainy uh kind of like it's like almost like a puffiness to it. We're going to use our project two textures basically. And you're gonna have those three materials are going to be determinative of they're each going to have a texture mapped to them. And so then what we're going to do is we're going to divide up. This is kind of so all of you will kind of have the same model and then different textures, but the same like chunks of textures will be applied places, right? Um, like all of you will have this as brick, but one of you might choose a different texture to represent brick. Then we're going to take this model and we're going to basically put three or four cut planes into it. The goal of getting like 8 different like kind of modular pieces. And so this using we're going to divide our precedent using 3 to 4 cut planes in plan and section. And so they can be perpendicular to each other or diagonal, and really they can be split up in any different way. But we're looking for 6 to 8 distinct parts, and we don't want really more than 8. I'm thinking 3 cut planes is probably the best for this. So essentially what we're going to do is we will have kind of this model, and we're gonna see the textured chunks, right? But what's really gonna happen is we're going to cut it in ways that are different from these modular breakups. And so our chunks are gonna have, like, if I cut a chunk right here, it's like we're gonna have all three textures in this like corner chunk. And so it's like we have these chunks that Tatiana Bilbao made in her precedent model. And then we're being faithful to those with just the textures, but then we're recutting it and chunking it and making new pieces. And kind of similar to our project one. This is almost like a fun amalgamation of aspects of project one and project two. I hope you can start to see like the through line that we're working with. Um, we're gonna have these really fun pieces to play with and start to like mold and make shapes. So this is kind of like it's like steps 1 through 4 are functionally just like getting the model built, making everything, um, making our pieces, our kit of parts, and then getting all of our textures on it and creating our fragments and messing with them, doing like mirrors, rotating them around, uh, flipping them around. We can Boolean with them. We can 3D rotate them. We can honestly we can scale them up and down. There's so many different ways we can start to do it. And so this is kind of what I'm going to be talking about in the first few videos. Then we're going to be moving more into the collage phase. But before I'm going to save the explanation of like the next several steps for like when we get there. I just want us to really lock in on these first few steps. So that being said, I'm actually going to like jump around uh, a lot. So I'm not going to subject you because it will actually take me like a while to make a detailed model of this. And I don't want this video to be 3 hours long. So, and I think we're at the point where you are capable of modeling these things on your own. That being said, I have all the different files, right? So let's start with our sections, right? Something we want to do with this particular project, I think it's important to, oh, we're going to have to do this one by one. With this particular project, as it pertains to scale, I am noticing that there isn't like a given scale on these, but what we do know is that a doorway generally is 3 feet. Now, what kind of drawings are these? Any guesses? I hope you chuckled at that because I can't obviously hear you. But the idea is that um, at the cut plane, these are pure sections, right? And I'm screwing with them because I'm looking at them in perspective. At the cut plane, this is a section and it is measurable. But the background, this is what's called a compound drawing. In the background, we have this 1 point perspective. And so we see how these lines are kind of like curving back. You can't see, I'm putting my hands up to the screen and I realize you can't see me do that. So you have like your cut plane, right? But beyond the cut plane, um, instead of your lines being parallel, they're going to be there's this like forced perspective. And eventually, as you're like moving your way back, it all comes back to like 1 point. Every line will come back to this like 1 point perspective on your horizon line. So like your horizon line is probably like around here in this one. And so like all of these lines will converge at this like horizon point eventually. Um, but the front is what's measurable. So we're not going to be measuring what's on the back. Really what we're going to do is we're going to go through and like trace some of these walls. And so I'm going to just start with this section, right? Even just getting a start with this. And I'm going to go quick, but you want to make sure your stuff is like perpendicular and straight and true. I just don't want you guys to have to watch any more than you have to. So like we have this, and obviously there will be all sorts of like interiors to these, and you're going to have 4 sections and 4 plans to base these off of. But what I can start to do once I start drawing stuff, so like if I offset this, let's say like, yeah, I'm in feet right now, so 0.25 feet is 3 inches. We can see that that gets definitely the floor right, but our walls are a little different. But just for the sake of showing you, what I kind of envision us doing is we'll have these like more detailed section cuts where you're catching all of the interior walls and stuff. And then what you'll be able to do is start to like set these up, rotate them, and set them up as 3D spaces, right? So you can kind of imagine it's like, okay, you'll have a section line work standing here. You'll have plan line work on the ground, right? So it's like you envision your plan is right here. You'll trace your other section, and it is going to be, kind of a different shape because we have these like open spaces on either side. So it might look something a little more like this, right? Um, and then we'll have our other 2 plans, which, for example, like these, this is where you'll start to get your roof pitch, right? So let's see, drop this in here, even just to like show you what this might look like. Like we will be maneuvering in like 3D space, and we're going to have all our drawings up, and functionally, we don't know where exactly these sections are cut. It's from near the middle though. So it's like we're going to kind of align our drawings as they need to be relative to kind of like where they are in section. And then we'll be able to start using this, right? And so it's like we will have this traced out, and we'll be able to kind of like use this method to start building our line work, right? So if, for example, let's just say, for the sake of being quick, we had this cute little, yeah, cute little roof. So if I have a little thing right here, just quickly do a little 3D rotate. This is like super rough, but I just wanted to give you guys the idea. Let's pretend we used like accurate line work and tracing to get to this point, because you guys' stuff is going to need to be accurate. That this roof isn't quite symmetrical, right? So it's like, well, we know the roof is going to be doing this thing, and we know that it's extending like out to here, right? So really what we'd have in this example is like, I drew that just to kind of like get this line work. So we know we're gonna have this like, this line work right here. And we can start to like, extrude these pieces and like use our Boolean operations. We know it goes like about that far out, and then we know these pieces will be different. We know there's like a floor system in here. Basically, I'm going to take the time to model this in like a higher level of detail, and you guys are going to have to go into the like highest level of detail. But using these plans and sections, you're going to kind of like reverse engineer the plans and sections to get a model, as opposed to like designing a model to then generate plans and sections like we've done in the past. But I hope you kind of like start to catch the vision. You trace the plans and the sections in top-down view, and then you rotate them to get them where they would be, where they were cut from, roughly, right? It's just rough. But it should be obvious when you're lining up the rooms. Because let's see in our house, right? Like this is like a double height living room space right here, right? And with like a bed next to it, we're seeing a double height space right here. We're seeing that same double height space here. Here's that bed. Here's that reverse with the stairs, right? These are the plans you want to use. This is that double height space. Here's the stairs. There's the stairs. There's the stairs again. So you'll have all these like crisscrossing drawings, and you're going to use them and the line work to generate the building. And so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this video here. And when we start the next one, I will have a copy of this, and we're going to dive into the textures. So I hope that makes sense. We're giving you the space to kind of start to, you know, develop your own workflow based on everything you've learned up to this point. And you're more than capable. You guys have already done some really, really incredible things. So that being said, I'm going to end this here, and then we'll keep going in the next one. All right. Stay tuned. You guys are doing great.